So, Bob Huggins cannot adapt to the transfer portal, huh? Well, I've got news for you. That is no longer the case, ladies and gentlemen. And we are going to talk about it right after the intro. What is going on, Mountaineer Nation and college hoops fans? This is Couz.
And my name is Mountaineer Paul.
And we present to you
Hoops from the Hills.
All right, Paul, let's dig in, baby. We've got some juicy stuff to talk about. West Virginia goes out and they grab one of the biggest name transfers we've ever been able to get into West Virginia, and that is Jesse Edwards from Syracuse, the big man. What are your initial thoughts on West Virginia's ability to land Jesse Edwards out of the transfer portal?
Well, the first thing you think about is he's a two-way game changer, offensive and defensively. It's so close. In fact, it's hard to say which end he has a bigger impact on. That's how good he is on defense. He's one of only 3 or 4 players in the country last year that averaged close to 3 blocks a game. That's elite. That's close to what Oscar Tshiebwe did at one point for West Virginia, and that's close to what Sags did at West Virginia. So we're talking about a guy that can really change shots at the rim. That means if players get beat, he can erase it. He's a lot like a safety in the back end, right? Corner makes a mistake and gets beat, he can erase that. So real big deal. That means that we don't have to have such elite wings. Now, he can't play 40 minutes a night, but guess what? We've also got James Okonkwo, so that's good too. But as far as Jesse Edwards goes, this is a guy that gets buckets in many different ways. He's not so much a typical back to the basket type of guy. He's thinking Nakobe Dean from Kansas State is a good comparison as far as the lobs, the pick and rolls into the lobs. And we've got a couple guys that are really good in Jose Perez and Kirk Arisa at throwing lobs from different angles off the pick and roll. I think you're going to see him score on a bunch of dunks on lobs this year. And he's also an offensive rebounding machine. Overall impact is 10 out of 10. I think this not only does this rejuvenate the fan base, but this rejuvenates the team, the coaching staff, the campus. It's as big of an impact as you could think to have. This is if JT Daniels were, let's say, a 3-time all-conference player last year coming into Morgantown rather than somebody who was a journeyman that had been injured. Similar to that kind of impact to a team. Right. So outside of this being a big-time 22 point per game scoring shooting guard, you really can't get much more of an impact than what Jesse Edwards is for West Virginia.
Right. Yeah, I think it's massive. And I think, like I mentioned in the intro, I think it proves that Bob Huggins has figured it out, man. For the first year or two of the transfer portal, he didn't really handle it real well, he and his staff. But now he's got a guy in Jay Kuntz that's going out and finding these guys, and they're figuring out a way to get them on campus. And once they get them on campus, they have a really good rate of getting these guys locked in and nailed down, man, because West Virginia has a lot to offer, and guys just need to be able to see it, They need to see the top world-class facilities. They need to see the Hall of Fame coach and interact with him a little bit and ride around in his old beat-up pickup truck, see how loyal he really is. For anybody that don't know what we're referring to, Kirk Arisa talked about that in an interview he did about how Bob Huggins took him for a ride in his old beat-up pickup truck, and Kirk Arisa was like, man, if this guy's still driving this old truck, he's very loyal. And then Jesse Edwards actually mentioned the truck in his tweet where he committed to. So I thought that was comical, but man, I mean, just that. Yeah, pretty good. But yeah, I mean, and you got players like Jose Perez that are entertaining these guys and being the host for them when they're on campus, showing them a good time, showing them around town, taking them to the local, popular restaurants and stuff. I mean, bars, I'm sure, probably, because these guys are 21, they're of age, they can do that. But I mean, they're showing them, hey man, this is a place you can have fun, you can play play good basketball, and we can win here. If we've got the right guys in place with the Hall of Fame coach, we can win here. And I think that's what these guys are buying into. And yes, NIL does play a role in it. And Jesse Edwards admitted that as much. He said it wasn't the primary factor, but it did play a role. He was on a recent interview with Jeff Goodman of Field of 68. I recommend you guys go back and watch that. It was actually on late. We're recording this video on Monday. It was late Sunday night that this came out. But go check that out. And he kind of goes through why he chose West Virginia. But anyway, he's a huge get. The two things we were missing was a true point guard. We got that in Kirk Creesa, and we were missing a true big who could score around the basket and be a rim protector, and we got that in Jesse Edwards.
Yeah, and the staff's not done.
Exactly. I mean, they've got Caleb Grill on campus as we speak, I think, or at least he was on campus. May still be there, and we're supposed to have John Hughley from Pitt coming in next weekend. So, this
spring game.
This is probably not the end of the portal additions for the Mountaineers, which means we could lose another guy or two. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, man. And with Trey back, Joe back, with Kerr coming in, with now Edwards coming in, man, and Jose Perez, and Silverio, I'm so excited about this group next year, man. This could be one of the best teams we've had, at least on paper, since 2010.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I think you're dead on it. I would say this will probably be a squad similar to Texas last year, as far as, I'm not saying we have the same amount of talent or don't have, but Texas was the team that had the number one transfer portal class. You saw how deep they made it into the tournament, but I think they only had 22 or 23 wins going into the tournament, and that's because it took them a while to gel. Even though they were good all year, they still had to come together. So when you think of it like that, we have a great core coming back. It's really going to depend on, even though Jose has been on campus, he hasn't really played. I mean, they practice, but that's not the same thing as playing.
Right.
So it's going to be on James Okonkwo, Joe Toussaint. I would say if we had more starters that were returning along with the additions, it would be a little bit more of an easier transition. But the players we have returning are all players that were factors, but they weren't exactly starters. So it's going to be interesting how they piece it together.
Right.
I just, at the end of the day, though, I think this is going to be a team that certainly is going to have national championship odds at this point.
Yeah.
Be very shocked to see them not. And because most people expect if they don't get Caleb Grill or Hughley, they'll get two more guys. A lot of people expect two more guys to show up of a higher caliber. There's just too many good players out there. So with the excitement that his pickup has gotten, see, it's like you can go to these players and say, hey, we've got Kirk Creesa and Jesse Edwards Jr. and Jose Perez, who was a preseason player of the year in his conference from last year, and we've got a couple snipers in Silverio and possibly Caleb Grill, and you can sell them on this. And most of these kids are transferring, especially these fifth-year guys like Grill and Jesse Edwards. They want to win. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably a top 2 priority or 3 for them. Outside of, obviously, finances and fit, you got to think about winning. So I think that's what these moves are doing for us, is making us an attractive destination, which is not a thing that we as West Virginia fans are used to being, to be honest.
Right. I agree. Exactly. It's a very it's a unique feeling, but it's a welcome feeling. I can tell you that.
I'm so high. Yeah, me too.
Dude,
I'm so excited about it.
I'll be honest with you. It almost makes me. It's almost putting football on a back burner a little bit for a few days anyway, because of all this exciting news coming out surrounding the basketball program. But when you look, I've got for all of you watching, I've got his stats on the screen from last season. 14.5 points a game. His 10.3 rebounds a game was actually 12th in the nation, which is impressive. And then you've got assists at 1.6 a game, and you've got a field goal percentage of 59.2%. And his blocks, like Paul mentioned earlier, 2.7 a game, and he was at 2.8 a game the year before. So I mean, he just all around is just he's an all around good basketball player, man. He does it all, especially the things Hugs wants done. Now, uh, the only question I had, and I've told Paul this, is can he play with the physicality that exists in the Big 12? It'll be interesting to see. Paul, do you think he'll be able to handle that?
I think it's on him. I think he's got it to do. He's got enough time to pack on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle if he wants. Maybe that's something he's worried about. A lot of players worry about putting on muscle. It can change your game in a negative way, but this is not a guy that's a shooter like an Eric Stevenson. This is a guy that plays around the rim. And much like Shaq did, packing on muscle can make you an even more dominant player. It's something I think that not only Jesse Edwards, but Trey Mitchell also could help benefit with. And Bob Huggins hasn't, and this has been known for years, top 3, top 5 weight program at West Virginia with those big bruising physical teams that he's used to having. So it's going to be encouraged, maybe even really encouraged that these guys hit the weight room. But one thing we know for sure is these guys are going to be in great shape, and it's not going to be a cardio issue.
Yeah.
But I do think these guys can get leaner and stronger, and I think they understand that. And if you were going to the Big 12 and you knew you had that ahead of you, and you'd probably do it too.
Yeah, and no offense to the ACC, but I just think the Big 12 plays a much more physical style of basketball.
Yeah, it's just different styles.
Yeah, arguably than any conference in the country. But the thing is, if you the Goodman interview I mentioned earlier, he actually talks about that. He says the ACC is physical, but the Big 12 is probably going to be even more physical. So I've got to get ready for that. And he said I'm going to have to get with those guys and get in the gym, get in the weight room. So he knows that. He already knows what's ahead of him. He knew it going in. He's accepting the challenge. He wanted the challenge. He said he wanted to go somewhere and start fresh, start new, learn something different. He talked about Jim Boeheim. They're both old school coaches, but they're also very different in the way they approach things. He's going to have to play a lot more pick and roll defense that he's not used to at Syracuse. So he'll learn that. But that's not going to do anything but help him as he prepares to go into the NBA or play at the next level. You need to be able to. You need to know how to play man-to-man defense. You need to know how to play pick and roll defense. All of those things and I'm not saying Syracuse never does those things, but we all know Syracuse is known for that zone that they play. So he's going to be required to play much more man and a lot more pick and roll defense than he did at Syracuse. But as good as he is, as athletic as he is, I have no doubt he'll be able to do it.
Yeah, unless West Virginia is able to sign some guys similar to John Flowers and Wellington Smith, and they can run that zone that they ran back in 2010.
Right.
That Bob would flip into and absolutely stymied.
1-3-1.
Man, I remember. Oh my God, yeah, the 1-3-1. He would flip into that late in games sometimes, and we won. I can think on. I bet you I can count on possibly 2 hands how many games that Huggins did that and was able to get separation with that 1-3-1 at the end of games, or he throwed. I mean, he wouldn't do it for maybe 7-8 minutes a game sometimes.
Yeah.
But it would be so effective because the Wellington Smith and John Flowers and others that, man, so we certainly have the back end covered with that, the 1 in the back. We've got a 1 in the front that's really good, like a Joe Toussaint. You got to have that. And then you've got to have 3 in the middle, 3 really long guys in the middle. And it'd be interesting to see if we can get that done.
Yeah. I think, a lot of length, like you mentioned, is very important for that 1-3-1. You've got to be aggressive. You got to be aggressive on your traps. I actually played that defense with my girls' travel team. But you got to be aggressive in your traps. You got to attack, try to keep them on the baseline as much as possible. Trap on the baseline, trap in the corners, and like you said, have that length to disrupt passing lanes. Man, that is key. And obviously, obviously everyone has to rotate well and things like that too when they do beat it. But the 1-3-1, if played correctly and with the proper personnel, is a really, really hard defense to overcome. It really is.
Yes, it is.
Well, I would love for them. I would love for them to pull that out if they have the right personnel to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's hard in this transfer day and age because not that you can't learn a 1-3-1 in 2 or 3 months and run it, But man, it's similar to offense as to where you really have to know each other to play it well.
Mhm.
It's not that it's not something. These guys are college athletes; they can get it. But similar to what Jordan Leslie's doing on the football side of things, keeping things simpler now because of the turnover and how quick everything moves. Do you want to have three or four defenses? Maybe two base defenses and two other defenses that you flip in and out of in this day and age. I don't know. It's a good question that I don't know the answer to.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, Paul, is there anything else? Real quick, guys, before we keep going, I want to ask that you please subscribe to us here on the channel if you haven't yet. Uh, we're trying to get up to that 1,000 subscriber mark. We're getting closer and closer by the day. Also, please give us a thumbs up and like the video if you like what we're talking about here and like what we have to say. And heck, even if you don't like it, hit the thumbs down button too. That's okay. We can live with it. And drop a comment. Let us know what you think about the addition of Jesse Edwards to the Mountaineer roster, and also what this means for Bob Huggins moving forward. And do you think this proves that Bob Huggins is not washed up, that Bob Huggins can adapt, and that Bob Huggins is willing to do what it takes to win? And finally, hopefully, fingers crossed, bring a national championship trophy back to West Virginia. Let us know in the comment section. Paul, do you have any other words you want to mention before we jump off of here?
Just it's possible that we may be losing some people on either side. Just be nice as players come and go. No reason to bash them if they come or go. Let's support these kids. I know not everybody agrees with that. That's how I feel.
No, that's absolutely, because they're going to go somewhere that's better for them. And that, as we've seen with guys like Jordan McCabe,
Yeah.
uh,
Still love for the program.
Sean McNeil, those guys still love the program. Jordan McCabe has been, you know, you know, vouching for a coaching. He wants to get on staff at West Virginia. His dream is to coach.
Love it.
Sean
Love it.
McNeil said he wants to come back and can't wait to come back to the campus and see the guys and see Coach Huggins. And these guys leaving does not necessarily mean they hate West Virginia. It doesn't mean they don't like West Virginia. It's not they're not flipping us the bird. They're doing what they need to do in most cases. That's best for them, their families, their futures in some cases. And in a lot of cases, it's guys who probably would never see the floor. So they're going somewhere like Jamel King. He recently transferred to Kennesaw State. He'll get to play at Kennesaw State, maybe start, maybe be a star at Kennesaw State,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a great opportunity for him. So I see nothing wrong with that. The transfer portal is there for that reason. So, like you said, Paul, now there are some exceptions to where I do get frustrated and mad when if guys want to bash us as they leave or things like that. I don't like that. But for the 99% of the time, it's guys leaving because they're doing something that's best for them and their families, and we need to always remember that, because any of us would probably do the same thing if we were in their situation. But with that said, guys, please check us out at our football channels as well. Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. He's getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. Go over there and subscribe to his channel. You can check me out at Couz's Corner, where I cover West Virginia Mountaineer football as well. West Virginia and Big 12 football, I should say. And then, we appreciate you tuning in to us here at Hoops from the Hills. And until the next show, we are out.